let's start predicting some records. We like to do best case, worst case, and most likely record scenarios for teams. And tonight we're doing Penn State. Probably the best shot James Franklin and his crew have had up there since that Big Ten title year. They are 8th in the college football playoff odds. Their over-under win total is 9.5, so that gives you an idea of what the odds market thinks about Penn State this year. So what I like to do is I like to go glass all the way full. I like to go glass totally empty. And then at the end, I like to tell you what I think is going to happen. So, and you can play along with me here. What is the absolute best case record scenario for Penn State this year? The absolute best case record scenario for Penn State, I think, is 12-0. There's a 12-0 in the cards for them. You push back on that a little bit, I don't think you really get the concept of best case. But let's walk down this road a second. In the best of best cases for Penn State, quarterback is not a problem for him. Drew Aller steps in, and you remember that, hey, this isn't really a true freshman, is it? He played last year. Yeah, he played in 10 games. He's the best quarterback talent I think James Franklin's had. In the best case, he plays like it. I don't know what else to tell you. He could give them a quarterback edge in every game they have this year if he plays up to that kind of potential. If the offensive line for them gives me B+ or better caliber play, and you combine that with the moves they made in the portal at wide receiver, and that wide receiver room coalesces and works off a power ground game, and they got Singleton and Katron Allen up there, could have a 30+ touchdown combined year in and of themselves. If all that happens, and of course they have injury luck, you combine that with what could be the best defense in the Big Ten, why would they not have a shot to win every game? They're going to, as of now, be about a 3-point dog against Michigan at home late in the year. Earlier in the year, they go on the road to Ohio State. If Aller's playing lights out, they match up pretty well with Ohio State. Ohio State will not face many defenses this year that can hang with those wide receivers. Well, Penn State can. Penn State, you don't have to pitch a shutout either. Penn State can. And so there's a scenario there where Penn State absolutely goes 12-0. Now, that's really fun to talk about. Yes, it is. But there's also the glass half empty. And this is normally where you want the home team to close their ears for a second. What is the worst case record scenario for Penn State? The worst case record for Penn State this year, I think, could be 8-4, because there is no guarantee that Drew Aller plays at a high level. We think he's going to. There's no guarantee of that. And we've seen many times before a guy get hyped up and not even play bad, but just doesn't quite play to that level. If he doesn't do that, you don't have that offensive balance you hope you can strike, and all of a sudden, you are still a prohibitive underdog against an Ohio State. You can't stop Michigan running the ball down your throat like you did last year, and you can't answer offensively. And not only that, not only do you drop those two games, but all of a sudden that group of Illinois, Iowa, at Maryland, Michigan State in Detroit on a Friday night in late November, go Big Ten, all those games are up in the air as well. So you hope you have separation between yourself and Tier 2 in the Big Ten. But in the worst case this year, run D, if it can't hold up against a Michigan, for example, that wouldn't be the only team to run the ball on you. They don't have the wide receivers to go in there and win in Columbus. Ohio State's got a good front. They may be able to limit that Penn State ground game if they know you can't throw the ball on them. There's an 8-4 in the cards as well. Now, that's not fun to talk about. But what is fun to talk about is at least what we believe in. So I'm not predicting Penn State to go 12-0. I'm not predicting Penn State to go 8-4. What are we predicting then? I love to know what you predict in the comments, by the way. The most likely record scenario, I think, for Penn State this year is 11-1. I'm actually sky high on Penn State this year. So best case 12-0, not that far from it. I think there's a lot of confusion out there from folks who get amnesia every spring, and they forget what they saw last year. Drew Aller, albeit still green, is not brand new to this. He's not a true freshman. He played in 10 games last year, like I said. Had to come in week 1. I think on the road, Jesse, against Purdue, had to come in week 1. So he was thrown in immediately and played so well that there was a little bit of a, dare I say, a controversy behind the scenes in the Penn State fan community, at least last year. I think he'll be really good. I think Drew Aller in time will be one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year. In time. Doesn't have to be immediately. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they will probably play really high caliber defense. they will be able to run the ball extremely well. There are two things that I'm focusing on here that make me arrive at 11-1 for them. Number one, I think they're going to win one of the big two. I think they'll either go into Columbus and upset Ohio State, or I think they'll beat Michigan at home. Certainly capable of doing both, capable of losing both. I'm splitting the difference. I think they'll win at least one of those. And number two, this is probably more important. I think there'll be separation that shows. So right now, when people talk about the Big Ten, they talk about Ohio State and Michigan. I think they'll talk about Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State this year. And if that happens, that means there is clear separation between Tier 1, including Penn State, and then Tier 2, 3, and 4 in the Big Ten. And if that's the case, you don't mess around with teams like Minnesota. You beat them. You don't mess around with Illinois, Iowa, Michigan State. You beat them. If you're really a Tier 1 team up there, you beat them. Manny Diaz, Jaywan Sider are just two coaches. I think a lot of you know Diaz. Sider's been up there for a while at running backs. Coach, they've got some great players to work with. So when you give really good coaches great players to work with, we were up there this spring, felt the vibe up there. I couldn't speak any more highly of the overall culture and vibe, and being around a lot of programs, you kind of learn to see through some of them. You don't really see through Penn State. Really good things going on up there. They're not a long way away. They're just fractions of inches away. I've said that so many times because I believe it. I think that they got 11-1 in the cards for them this year. That's what I think about Penn State. Now, if that is the case, you could have a real big mess on your hands in the Big Ten because there is that whole potential scenario where Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are all 11-1. That could happen. And we're at least a third of the way there in that prediction. So there you go. I'm going 11-1 for them. The odds to win the Big Ten right now, Penn State's third. Ohio State, as of the moment, is actually the favorite to win the Big Ten. Michigan couldn't care less. They're sitting there at second like they have been the past 2 years and have no problem with it. And then after that, Wisconsin is the one in fourth at plus 850.